Over the years, throughout all of my lost media videos, I've covered a number of cases where accidents have resulted in the deaths of some of those involved in a film. The most famous, of course, being the death of Brandon Lee during the production of The Crow, but there have been many more examples, both before and after The Crow, and unfortunately it seems that no matter how many safety precautions are taken these days, there's always that risk something could go horribly wrong, and in this video, I'll be discussing 8 of them. Here are 8 of the most horrifying film set deaths. When XXX went into production in the early 2000s, it aimed to deliver relentless action on a scale that rivaled the most established adrenaline-fueled blockbusters. Director Rob Cohen, who had previously worked on The Fast and the Furious, was enthusiastic about crafting elaborate set pieces that involved extreme sports. He saw the film's presence as an excuse to push limits. Cameras rolled in the Czech Republic, among other locations, with the architectural grandeur of Prague lending itself to some especially daring sequences. The movie's crew spared no effort in orchestrating high-octane chases and stunts, layering many scenes with a level of spectacle that demanded close collaboration between director, cast, and an army of stunt professionals. From the very start, that performers would be tasked with feats beyond the usual leaps and tumbles. The production scoured the stunt world for individuals who weren't just skilled drivers or martial artists, but also had expertise in parachuting, parasailing, and other high-risk activities. This group brought both experience and an unflinching commitment to the job, which was precisely what the film required. Vin Diesel, already famed for his on-screen physicality, relied heavily on these specialists to ensure each perilous moment appeared as authentic as possible. Harry L. O'Connor was among those entrusted with the job of bringing that authenticity to the screen. He served as Vin Diesel's stunt double, stepping into action whenever a scene demanded maneuvers that were too hazardous or too specialized for the lead actor himself. O'Connor didn't just arrive on set to perform a single trick. He was involved in a number of complex stunts across the production. His background included intense training and prior experience that made him ideal for high-altitude work. Colleagues admired the calm confidence he projected, even when strapping himself into harnesses or setting up for sequences well above street level. Late in the shoot, production moved forward on a particularly daunting stunt designed to showcase a thrilling getaway. Using a parasailing rig near Prague's Palacky Bridge, O'Connor was expected to glide at high speed alongside the Vltava River, maneuvering close to structure and water alike. Timing and precision were crucial. Any miscalculation, be it from wind shifts, small changes in speed, or errors in judging distance, would create serious hazards. Despite thorough planning, something went terribly wrong that day. While filming a high-speed descent, O'Connor collided with the bridge and was killed upon impact. Cast and crew was shaken to their core, and the production ground to an immediate halt as everyone tried to grapple with the gravity of what's happened. In the wake of this loss, discussions arose regarding the scene itself. Rob Cohen later acknowledged that a portion of the footage captured before the accident still made its way into the final cut, though the fatal moment was obviously omitted. To some observers, it seemed a grim testament to the risk that can lurk behind cinematic excitement. While it is often the on-camera spectacle that resonates with audiences, those who are there remember a devoted professional who lost his life doing what he was known for, pushing boundaries to create moments that moviegoers would marvel at. The robust approach to extreme stunts became overshadowed by the day tragedy struck, leaving behind a sober reality in the midst of the film's otherwise triumphant ambitions. No matter how electrifying the final product appeared on screen, the crew was left with a somber memory of an accident that claimed the life of a key contributor to the film's vision. Vampire in Brooklyn, directed by Wes Craven and starring Eddie Murphy, was a departure for both men in different ways. Craven, known almost exclusively for straight horror, was merging comedy with supernatural elements. Murphy, who had a massive career around his fast-talking charm, was tackling a darker, more stylized role. The film was backed by Paramount and had a modest budget for a mid-90s studio feature, but it was still expected to deliver the visual and production polish of a major release. Filming primarily took place in and around New York City, and the production involved a mix of practical effects, location work, and stunt coordination. Despite the comedic lean of the script, Craven's approach was serious when it came to staging the action. There was an emphasis on grounded set pieces, real vehicles, real fire escapes, and real falls. These choices gave the shoot a certain grit that echoed some of Craven's earlier work, but it also meant the stunt department was constantly on call. The team brought in seasoned stunt professionals to carry out the risk-heavy moments, including Sonia Davis, who had been working for several years in the industry. She performed in major productions before, with a track record that gave her a solid reputation among stunt coordinators. On Vampire in Brooklyn, Davis was brought on for a specific fall, one that involved a doubling for Angela Bassett and dropping from a significant height onto an airbag below. On the day of the stunt, all standard safety measures were reportedly in place. The crew ran through rehearsals, equipment was checked, and cameras were positioned to capture the fall from multiple angles. Still, something went wrong. Davis missed the airbag during the fall, hitting the ground with force. Emergency responders were called immediately, but the injuries were too severe. She died at the hospital. The atmosphere on set changed instantly. The mood, already focused and tense due to the nature of the scene, turned somber. Filming was paused. Cast and crew stood together in a stunned silence. Many had known Davis personally. Others had only worked with her briefly, but all was shaken by what had unfolded in front of them. There wasn't much that could be said in the immediate aftermath. People returned to their trailers or simply stood around, waiting for instructions. Paramount conducted an internal investigation, as did local authorities. Statements were made to the press, but details were kept relatively sparse. For the rest of the shoot, security was tighter, stunt work was pared back, production finished the film, but the loss was not forgotten. Internally, it left a lasting impact on those who were there that day. The film's eventual release was met with mixed reviews and modest box office numbers. But for those involved behind the scenes, the dominant memory was not the critical reception. It was the day they lost a colleague doing the job she'd done countless times before. Though primarily an Italian production, Hands of Steel saw its crew traveling to Arizona in 1986 to capture the distinctive look and feel of America's desert landscape. The director, Sergio Martino, had a reputation for action-oriented genre films, which meant an emphasis on wide shots and stunts that demanded precision. In search of the proper backdrops, Martino and his team selected scenic areas around canyons and rocky plateaus, aiming to imbue the film with a stark, near-futuristic tone. Preparing for extended on-location work was a task in itself. Multiple vehicles ferried equipment into places not easily reached by road. Production managers coordinated with local authorities to ensure filming did not encroach on restricted land. Various cast members worked closely with stunt coordinators, and everyone adapted to the scorching temperatures that made each day a balancing act between artistry and safety. Shooting schedules changed at the drop of a hat. One moment they could be dealing with a blazing midday sun, the next the desert winds threatened the lighting rigs. Among the cast was Claudio Casanelli, an actor known for his appearance in numerous Italian productions. During one part of filming, Casanelli and the pilot, Dan Nasca, boarded a helicopter to capture aerial footage that would frame certain key moments in the movie. It was routine work for a feature involving extensive location shots, but it required vigilance on everyone's part. Flight routes had to be mapped against terrain, camera gear secured, and radio communication double-checked before takeoff. It was during one of these flights that an unforeseen accident occurred. The helicopter came down violently, leaving both Casanelli and Nasca with no chance of survival. Crew members who witnessed the event from a distance described an abrupt interruption in the aircraft's movement before it collided with a structure in the canyon area. Immediate efforts were made to reach the crash site, though the desert conditions and precarious terrain slowed rescue attempts. In the aftermath, production halted as authorities arrived to assess the wreckage and gather official reports. For those who had been working side by side with Casanelli and Nasca, the situation carried a heavy weight. Some recalled the pair's enthusiasm in the days leading up to the flight, discussing the thrill of capturing sweeping views from above. Yet that day's events set everything else aside. Suddenly, the cameras were silent. While filming eventually resumed in some form, it was never in quite the same spirit. The passing of Casanelli and Nasca left a profound imprint, extending beyond the immediate circle of colleagues and friends. By the late 1980s, action films starring Chuck Norris had developed a dedicated following worldwide, and Braddock, Missing in Action 3, was no exception. The project emerged under the Cannon Films, known for its fast-paced, shoot-'em-up style productions. Directed by Aaron Norris, Chuck's brother, this installment was designed to maintain the explosive tone fans expected, while injecting a fresh energy with updated stunts and pyrotechnic sequences. Although the setting evoked the final chapters of America's involvement in foreign conflicts, the actual shoot primarily took place in the Philippines, where producers could achieve authentic jungle backdrops without breaking the bank. In typical Cannon fashion, resources were channeled toward dramatic set pieces. Crews rigged up large-scale effects with the help of local specialists, forging dense foliage locations and well-orchestrated explosions. Because of the location's humid climate, each stunt demanded careful timing. Equipment had to be cooled and checked, and people worked alongside local extras who sometimes faced unfamiliar on-set conditions. Yet the schedule pressed forward at a breakneck pace, guided by tight budgets and expectations that would match, if not surpass, its predecessors in spectacle. During one particular sequence, a helicopter maneuver was planned as part of an ambitious action scene. This involved precise piloting near rough terrain, with extra performers situated in the immediate vicinity for added realism. Despite numerous rehearsals and safety discussions, the film went catastrophically wrong. The chopper crashed, leading to the death of 4 Filipino extras who had no chance to evade the impending catastrophe. Onlookers scrambled to provide help, but chaos reigned amid wreckage and panic. As emergency personnel arrived, the production ground to a halt. Investigators tried to ascertain the cause of the crash, speaking with the film's pilots and coordinators to piece together the final moments before impact. Meanwhile, Canon executives scrambled to manage both the practical and emotional fallout. Though the devastation cast a heavy shadow over everyone involved, filming eventually resumed after a period of mourning, but the loss lingered in the air. Some cast and crew struggled to finish the project with the same enthusiasm. The fatalities also drew the attention of international news outlets, which often highlighted the dangers of performing stunts in remote locations. Though official statements from the studio remained measured in tone, once completed, Braddock Missing in Action 3 reached audiences under the looming memory of that grim moment. The film itself pressed on, featuring intense action that fans had come to expect from a Norris vehicle. But behind the scenes, many never forgot the day 4 individuals lost their lives on set. It was a chapter of the production that overshadowed the typical bravado associated with these sorts of films, leaving an indelible imprint on everyone who witnessed or learned about the incident firsthand. Just wanted to jump in here and say, if you're enjoying this video and enjoy my content in general, please consider donating to my Patreon. For as little as $2 a month, you get ad-free access to all new videos, and for $5 a month, you get them ad-free and 1 day before everyone else. Donating will be helping me out a lot, as it will also allow me to continue to create content on YouTube. Anyway, back to the video. Believe it or not, this incident took place in yet another Chuck Norris movie. Delta Force 2: The Colombian Connection promised more of Chuck Norris's high-octane style, shot in international locations designed to lend authenticity and scale. Behind the scenes, the filmmakers coordinated elaborate stunts and location shoots that demanded precise organization from a sizable team of industry professionals. One of the production's core undertakings involved aerial sequences intended to highlight the film's action-driven narrative. Executives and crew traveled to mountainous regions in the Philippines to find the right look for the pivotal scenes. The terrain presented a mix of rugged beauty and potential hazards, and the weather could shift without warning. Helicopters were at the heart of many shots, capturing both wide overhead perspectives and near-ground maneuvers. Maintaining safety required close collaboration among pilots, camera operators, and support staff. However, amid this setup, a devastating helicopter crash took place. On board were actor Jeff Brewer, cameraman Gaddy Danzig, key grip Mike Graham, gaffer Don Marshall, and pilot Jojo Impriali. The impact was fatal for all 5, stunning onlookers and halting production immediately. Rescue and recovery efforts were complicated by the challenging location, forcing team members to await outside assistance as they tried to help at the scene. In the days that followed, the surviving cast and crew wrestled with the shock, while local authorities reviewed flight records, maintenance logs, and eyewitness accounts. Media coverage, though not as pervasive as it might be in later years, circulated the names of those lost and highlighted the often unseen risks involved in capturing big-screen spectacle. Canon Films, which oversaw the project, provided statements and managed the logistical complexities that emerged. The accident cast a sizable shadow over the film itself, and those who stayed behind to finish the final cut approached their tasks with a subdued sense of duty. Though the feature eventually saw release, there was little doubt that the tragedy shaped how people viewed the production. Names like Brewer, Danzig, Graham, Marshall, and Imperiali became part of its permanent record, a reminder of how swiftly a planned day of work can turn into profound loss. In early 1930, Fox Film Corporation embarked on creating Such Men Are Dangerous. During a significant juncture in motion picture history, The industry was only a few years past the initial boom of talking pictures, yet filmmakers were already experimenting with bold production techniques that would set new standards for spectacle. This project, directed by Kenneth Hawkes, brother of famed filmmaker Howard Hawks, was meant to be more than a routine release. Studio executives believed that an ambitious shoot, complete with dramatic airborne sequences, could capture viewers' attention at a time when audiences were hungry for visual novelty. Even before cameras rolled, the planning involved careful coordination between Fox's leadership and the production team. At the time, studios were highly centralized operations, with elaborate departments dedicated to wardrobe, set design, and special effects. For Such Men Are Dangerous, one of the most pressing concerns was achieving a convincing aerial scene without relying purely on trick photography. Hawks and his crew decided to utilize real aircraft to capture the excitement of flight, a choice that demanded precise logistics. Specialized pilots were hired, cameras were mounted on planes for authentic angles, and flight routes were plotted to ensure exciting visuals. Securing reliable aircraft meant negotiating with stunt pilots and companies accustomed to performing for movies. Aeronautical professionals brought their own sets of rules, and each step required official clearance. While stunt flying wasn't unheard of in 1930, it always carried certain hazards. Anxious about any delays, still supported Hawks' vision, because the final product promised to stand out in a crowded release calendar. They believed audiences would line up to see the footage of real planes skimming over scenic terrain in a full-length feature film. However, a sense of caution did linger in the background. Crew members exchanged nervous glances when the planes took off, and some quietly expressed unease about filming in mid-air. Yet the early practice flights went well. Reports from the test runs described skilled maneuvers in clear weather. Hawks, known among friends and colleagues for his calm presence, encouraged everyone by highlighting the competence of the pilots involved. Day after day, the production proceeded without major hiccups. Then came the disaster. During one of the aerial shoots, 2 planes collided, causing a catastrophic crash that claimed 10 lives, including Kenneth Hawkes himself. In an instant, the close-knit group found itself in upheaval. The swirling debris, the frantic calls for assistance, and the sudden absence of key personnel created a harrowing atmosphere. Witnesses found it impossible to reconcile the morning's optimism with the tragedy they were now facing. The set, once abuzz with activity, fell into stunned silence. The final days of production unfolded in the shadow of immense loss. Reorganizing the crew was no simple matter. Executive decisions were made quickly, with members of Fox's upper echelon weighing the impact of continuing the picture against the shock permeating every corner of the studio. Industry observers at the time remarked that the shockwaves rippled across Hollywood. Crews on other films expressed heightened concerns about their own projects, especially those involving dangerous stunt work or significant location shoots. Kenneth Hawks' death was particularly difficult for those who had followed his emerging career. He had shown promise not just as a director, but also as a figure who understood how to blend action with storytelling. The team remaining on Such Men Are Dangerous tried to finish the film with footage they already had, making adjustments along the way. In that era, halting production entirely meant potential financial ruin, so the film inched toward completion despite the emotional toll. Although Such Men Are Dangerous eventually reached the screen, the very circumstances that gave it such potential ended in heartbreak. Newspaper articles covered the incident in stark terms, listing the names of the deceased and offering brief accounts of what had gone wrong. The motion picture community reeled from the calamity. In official statements, Fox Film Corporation expressed condolences and acknowledged the unexpected magnitude of the disaster. Over time, the story of that ill-fated shoot became more than just a footnote in cinematic history, and although everyone involved with the film is now long gone, they still suffered the lingering memories of having experienced that disastrous moment firsthand. During the early years of sound cinema, adventurous filmmakers often ventured into the remote locations to capture authenticity. In 1931, Varric Frissell set out to film what he believed would be a groundbreaking maritime saga, ultimately known as The Viking. Although little known outside certain circles, it aimed to offer an immersive look at life aboard a seal hunting vessel navigating icy waters. Frissell's dedication to documenting realistic conditions drove him to gather a cast and crew willing to endure a harsh environment. Backed in part by private financiers, intrigued by the lure of real-life expedition footage, the production arranged passage on a ship suitably named the SS Viking. Originally designed for seal hunting, The vessel's sturdy construction and experience navigating perilous ice floes made it seem an ideal choice for filming. Frissell, however, was not content to stage events in a safe harbour or rely on studio recreations. He wanted genuine images of men chipping through frozen seas and confronting raw elements. This dedication to realism meant travelling far from traditional production centres, removing any fallback of immediate professional support. Preparation involved outfitting the Viking with camera equipment adapted to frigid conditions, plus provisions for an extended stay in remote regions. Cast and crew combined professional sailors with film personnel, each group relying on the other's expertise to keep the operation running. Most had limited experience with filming under such extreme conditions, yet many spoke enthusiastically about the project's adventurous spirit. Challenges soon presented themselves. Temperatures plunged well below freezing, and fierce winds made filming a grueling chore. Equipment required constant maintenance. If the camera lenses fogged or iced over, precious time was lost. Each successful shot seemed like a small triumph. Despite mounting difficulties, Frissell pushed onward, eager to capture breathtaking material that no conventional studio lot could replicate. One factor that would loom large was the transport and storage of explosive charges intended to clear ice. On maritime expeditions, such charges were sometimes employed to free trapped vessels, but keeping them on board a film set posed considerable risk. Near the end of principal photography, the Viking became trapped in a sea of pack ice off the coast of Newfoundland. Tensions rose as the ship struggled to navigate or break loose. At some point, an accidental detonation destroyed large sections of the vessel. In that single catastrophic moment, 27 people lost their lives, including Frissell and several other key members of his team. Survivors scrambled to assist one another. Some of them flung onto the ice, others forced to abandon the crippled ship entirely. Back at port, news of the disaster shook the film community. Officials attempted to piece together the sequence of events that triggered the explosion, but the remote setting and the chaotic aftermath left many questions without clear answers. The tragedy overshadowed the project, throwing into question whether the footage could or should be salvaged. Those who had worked alongside Frissell grappled with the heartbreak and logistical complications in equal measure. The final, edited version of the Viking eventually appeared, composed of whatever scene had been completed before the voyage took its fatal turn. In the wake of the incident, discussions about the dangers of location shooting became more urgent across the industry. Filmmakers realized that real-world adventures, while visually striking, carried stakes beyond the usual obstacles of budget and schedules. Though the Viking never achieved the widespread reputation of bigger Hollywood releases, it remains notable in certain historical accounts for the staggering loss of life that befell its production. Even as decades passed, the film's name stayed connected to the moments when ambition, harsh weather, and a single unforeseen event proved devastating for everyone on board. In 1981, Warner Brothers invited Steven Spielberg to produce a feature-length revival of The Twilight Zone and asked him to choose the other segment directors. Spielberg handed over one chapter to John Landis, then hot off the Blues Brothers. Landis wanted a visceral Vietnam-era nightmare and chose Indian Dunes, a 600-acre ranch near Valencia, California, that could be dressed as a jungle, desert, or river delta, and still sat snugly inside Hollywood's union-friendly 30-mile zone. Landis' script called for actor Vic Morrow to carry two Vietnamese children through a shallow river while a Bell UH-1B Huey helicopter pounded overhead and mortar blasts lit the sky. The scene was scheduled for the early morning hours of Friday, the 21st of July 1982, well past the legal cutoff for child performers, and the production had skipped the usual permits, teachers, and welfare officers. At about 2:20 a.m., cameras rolled. Special effects charges were fired alongside the riverbank. Debris in a flash fire struck the Huey's rotor system, shearing off the tail and sending the aircraft cartwheeling into the water. The main blades hit Morrow and 7-year-old Micah Din Lay. The right skid crushed 6-year-old Renee Shin-Yi Chen. All three died instantly. The pilot and 5 passengers inside the chopper survived, though 6 people were hurt. An NTSB team reconstructed the flight and concluded that the low altitude, the lack of clear radio protocol between the pilot and the effects crew, and the placement of debris-laden high-temperature pyrotechnic charges left the helicopter no room to escape. Los Angeles County prosecutors indicted Landis, associate producer George Fosley Jr., unit production manager David Allingham, special effects supervisor Paul Stewart, and pilot Dorsey Wingo for involuntary manslaughter, the first time an American film director faced criminal charges over an on-set death. After a 10-month trial, that ran from September 1986 to May 1987, the jury acquitted all 5 defendants. The families sued Warner Brothers and the filmmakers for more than $200 million. Morrow's daughters settled first, reportedly for about $850,000 in December 1983. The children's cases were resolved in June 1987, under court-sealed terms that industry sources put in the multi-million-dollar range. Guilds and regulators moved with unusual speed. The Screen Actors Guild created a 24-hour safety hotline. The Directors Guild began issuing numbered safety bulletins and for the first time disciplined members who ignored them. Warner Brothers compiled an injury and illness prevention program manual that it still handed out on sets. And California's State Fire Marshal launched a dedicated motion picture and entertainment safety unit to oversee explosives and flames. Within 4 years, reported on-set accidents in the state dropped by nearly 70%. Spielberg severed his working relationship with Landis and later said the crash left the crew, quote, sick to the center of their souls. Landis kept directing. Coming to America dropped the year after the verdict, but interviews from the mid-1990s showed him conceding that the tragedy shadowed every subsequent project.
As a director, were you afraid that this black cloud would never go away from, living in the aftermath of the tragedy and the untruths that were being spread?
Well, you're helping. I mean, I don't understand. I mean, was I afraid of what?
Well, a lot, like you were saying, that all these untruths were getting out, even though...
Well, it's not, I mean, what I've learned is there's really not much you can do about it. I mean, you can't really protect yourself from lies. I mean, I know what happened, or it took years to, actually it took almost 6 years to find out what happened in the Twilight Zone accident. That was interesting, because nobody really understood what the hell happened, I mean, now they keep saying about how the helicopter was hit by something that was blown up. Well, that's not what happened, and stuff like that. The question is an odd one, because I don't know how to respond to it, because am I afraid of it? No, I'm not afraid of it. Am I unhappy with it? Of course. Mm-hmm. But in terms of the Twilight Zone, that was absolutely terrifying and horrendous thing. And of course, I mean, I don't know, unless you've been in a violent accident situation or seen people killed, it's hard to, I think about it all the time. It's terrible.
From a filmmaking standpoint, the Twilight Zone catastrophe became the inflection point against which every later talk of stunts, explosives, and low-flying craft has been measured, etched not into screenplay lore, but in production handbooks, hotline numbers, and an unspoken resolve that no director wants to test in court again. I know pretty much everyone already knows the story behind this accident, but I felt that I just couldn't make this video without it, especially considering that out of all the incidents in this video, it's the only one that we actually have footage of, showing the exact moment a man and 2 young children were killed in such a brutal way. And that's the end of the video, folks. If there's one thing we've learned here, I think it's this. Don't get involved in Chuck Norris movies if you can help it, since he and Canon Films seem to have a bad track record of keeping cast and crew safe. Thank you very much for watching. Be sure to like this video, leave a comment, subscribe if you're new, and consider donating to my Patreon if you'd like to support me and help keep the channel going. I also have a Ko-fi page where you can just donate a one-time tip if you want to. Goodbye.